Welcome to another update on the metal engine I'm working on. So I wanted to spend a bit of time explaining a bit more what this project is and what I'm doing it. So first of all, I wanted to learn little bit more about metal, right? So that's one of the few graphics API I never used, and I had an old MacBook Pro that a friend of mine lent to me, and I was like, sure, let's have a look, right? And particularly like I'm doing yet another game engine because of course why not, but so this time I decided to do something really different. This time is going to be a proper editor. So if you have a look at Sir Engine, um, it's not, I call it an engine, but it's not really an engine. It's more you can think of it of a game, right? That's basically what happened when you start the game, right? So you read your resources, is optimized to read resources already ready to go for the GPU, so um, it doesn't allow you to create the scene, right? So you can't place, let's say, trees in the scene, build a scene, save a scene, load a scene, right? Now it basically reads data ready to go. It's mostly a runtime thing. It's not really an editor. So I decided to focus more, to do something different, just to not redo over and over the same thing. So in this engine, I really want to focus on making an editor. And you can see here, there is a start of this. So we have a viewport, and we have an initial layout, we have tabs, right? And you can resize. So it's working fine. So we have an off-screen render. So the viewport is being rendered off-screen, and then it's being blended with a texture using MGUI, and you can grab it, right? You can docking around. So this workflow is already working, and it was a bit tricky to get this to work, but thanks to a friend that helped me a lot to get this part of MGUI I was not really used to. It's working. So next, I need to start actually working on the code itself. I started putting into place, we can actually have a look, I started putting into place uh, some of the functionality, right? So we have the resources, so there's a shader manager, a texture manager. The texture manager is what I'm using to create the baking resource for this texture here to render, the resizing the texture, create a new one, destroy the old one. So I started to put in place some of the stuff. Now initially I had most of the code in this is the metal view, right? So most of the stuff is in there, which is not ideal. So I've been working about removing that stuff. So all the texture stuff was here before, uh, so I'm removing that. But for example, all the pipelines are still created here, and this is where we start differently a lot from SirEngine. SirEngine, um, the pipelines, for example, are encoded, right, and they are read. So all this configuration is encoded in a format and is ready to go. Is not created on the fly, is not reverse engineer, reflected, extracted from the shaders. A lot of this information can extracted from the shaders, etc. So I want to start working on all this. The user should not care about pipelines, as it does in SirEngine that you need to write your own. This should happen transparently from the user, so this is what's gonna happen next. This is why we have a shader manager to start loading the libraries. Then we're gonna extract data from this library, extracting the shaders. All this kind of information. I want to start extract and working on it. And then basically I want to be able to get this. And first I want to have a concept of a scene where this is going to be a cube. Once we have a cube, there should be a material where I can see the shader assigned to it, all this kind of stuff, and should be able to configure here. So that's gonna be the next big step. This is what we're going to work toward. And of course, right now you can't move the camera here, right? So you want to be able to move the camera, rotate, zoom, that kind of stuff. So that's gonna be the next big chunk of work. But once we're there, it's a lot of work, but we should be already in a good state where you start to have a resemblance of an engine, of an editor, right? So this is the current state. The code is on GitHub. You can find the link in the description. It's really messy right now. It's the very beginning, and especially my interaction with Objective-C and C++ might not be ideal. So I'm more than happy to get suggestions and advice when it comes to that, because I really it's not my comfort zone here. So probably somebody that knows about Objective-C and C++ interop is probably crying somewhere looking at this. But if that's the case, let me know. I'm more than happy to improve on this. Alright? So this is it for now. See you in the next update.